Welcome to your tech final. This is going to be your second option other than the square, where we do a cross that is made up of 4 different lines, 4 different colors, and then it also expands very similarly to what this square project did. First, let's go by the numbers. Let's explain what an actual line is, okay? And to remind you that a line is nothing more than the connection of 2 different dots. So the line has a variable, if you will, for arguments. A line has 4 arguments in it. That have to be filled. One is an x1, a y1, an x2, and a y2. Very similar to the square. Same logic, actually. So let's draw a canvas. You want to make sure the canvas is, let's just say for the sake of argument, 800 pixels wide and 800 pixels, well, we'll draw it, make it a square. So let's just say all the sides are going to be at 800. So the x-axis we know is at 800. And the y is also at 800. And we know where these 2 coordinates are, 0, 0. So that would make this 400 and 200 and 600 and 400 and 200. Now you know why I do even numbers. And 600. Okay. Let's explain something here. We want this to go from the very center of this canvas out. So the very center is going to be a shared point for all 4 lines. The center of this, we would say, is going to be 400. Well, 400 on the x and 400 on the y. Simple enough. So let's go down 400. And 400, and let's just say it's right there. Okay, that's about as accurate as I can make it. So we know what that point is. That point right there is x, right? The x1 equals 400, and the y1 equals 400. Well, we want to make a separate line, or a line. We want to make it, let's say 200 pixels across or down. So we'll go down first. So the line starts here at the 400 y and goes down to, that's not the best geometry in the world, is it? To 600 y. So it starts here, right? And it ends here, which is x 400, x2 is 400. Let me get rid of that. And the y2 is 600. Now all 4 lines are going to be exactly the same length. Otherwise it would kind of look wonky a little bit, right? So this point right here is x 400, y 400, and then x 400, y 600. So there's your line. If you're drawing this, that is what you're going to find. If you're drawing this, this is your very first line. Now I had said we want some motion in it, or some movement. And that is what we're going to go for. So we're going to shoot to have it all start here and end here. So this is what's going to happen when the program runs the very first time, the first iteration. And then after it keeps repeating, right? Because draw functions keep repeating, the line is going to stretch all the way down. Now with one line, not that much fun, right? So let's go through what we need to do. Number 1, you need to set up your canvas to be 800 by 800. Your background color, pick a color. Grayscale 200 seems to work for me. But what we're going to need to do in order to have everything happen that we see here, we need to have use the object notation. And object notation, then there's a little thing for tweaking the variables. So let's go through it. The setup function is going to be down here, right? So function setup, and we're going to say create canvas. How big? 800 by 800, and that's going to end. Right, then we have function draw. That doesn't look too clear, does it? Function draw. And let me see how we're doing on time. 6 minutes. Function draw. And we're going to do, let's say, background. What color? Make it at 200. Now we're going to be adding more things under the function draw, so we're not going to do anything further from there. So let's add a line. Let's draw the line, put the code in for the line. So we have line. Well, we're going to want stroke, right? Do we want any stroke color? That's a very good question. Stroke color, because it's not going to have a fill, so it's going to have a stroke, and let's just say red, right? This color is going to be easy enough to do. I could do that off the top of my head. There you go. So the stroke color is going to be red. You have to put the color before, otherwise it's going to be okay, then we have the actual line itself. So line, we're going to call this line number 1, okay? That's line 1. It's going to be important to kind of keep it in some organized fashion for us. So line, what is the coordinates for the line? Well, the coordinates for the x1, which is this one right here, is 400. The y1 was 400. The x2 is 400. And the y2, that's this one right here. Why am I hesitating? Well, because we want this one to keep on expanding, correct? To keep expanding. In order to do that, this is where the object orientation is going to, notation is going to come in. Before the setup function, we're going to do the object notation. So let's set up a var, var, and we'll call this L1, and we want it to equal something. So let's declare the value of it. So we can say L1, and what variable are we changing? We're going to be changing the y2. So let's call that y2 colon, and we want to start it at y2 is 600. That's where the line begins. And it's going to be important. It's going to be important that we keep these organized. So you're going to have a whole bunch of these in before the function. Right. So we need to do L1, right, dot what variable, y2. So now it's going to pull the value for this y2 out of this object. Beauty of that is if we change this object, the value automatically is going to change so that the line will be longer. But we want some movement in the line. So we want to continuously add the length to the line, called iterations or of the program. Because if you remember, function draw keeps happening over and over and over again. The setup function happens once and then you're one and done kind of deal. So we want this variable right here. And I should probably do a little different. We want this variable to keep adding and adding and adding so that it will continue to go down, 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 right? Here, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to say L1, because that's line 1. That's this right here. Right? That's this right here, L1. And dot the variable in that object, which is y2, equaling L1 dot y2 plus 1. That's going to send the y coordinate in the positive direction. So that is what you have. Once you hit this, you'll be able to run it. You should have been running it all along. You should have at least run it once so you can see the line. And then after you key in the coordinate, I need to put a semicolon in there, don't I? You're going to need, and I should have probably put a semicolon over here. Sometimes you just can't teach an old dog a new trick. So now your line's going to start here and finish here. Well, the next line, okay, the next line we need to create. Let's just say, let me get rid of some of these numbers so we have a little more space. The next line we're going to make, let's say blue. Okay. The line is going to begin here, and it's going to go 200 pixels. So it's going to go over to here to the 600 mark. All right. So it's going to go from there to here. And it's going to keep on going. So easy enough. This is line number 2. And again, this was line number 1. What is the coordinates for it? Well, remember we have an x1, y1, x2, y2. So the coordinates are going to be in here for the blue is going to be x equals 600, y equals 400, and this dot here is going to be x, let's see, x equals 600, and the y equals 400. That seem about right? Well, let me rephrase that because this didn't seem right, did it? Now, when I looked at that, it's actually 400. I'm getting ahead of myself here. 400 and 400. That's the center. It's going to be the same. These numbers right here, the x1 and y1, are exactly the same for all of the lines because we want them to begin in the center of the canvas. So the variable here that's actually going to be changing is going to be the x2. That's important to know. And we know that it begins at 600. So above the function setup, we're going to create another var. Now that would be somewhere down in here, correct? In between the two. Var L2. And what value are we going to give that x to? We're going to give that value 600 because that's where it starts at. And we're going to use that object when we are coding the line. So we want to change the color of it. Stroke. What color are we going to make it? Well, 0, 0, and then we have blue, right? And then we're going to actually draw the line itself, which is line. These are all lowercase. The x1 is 400. The y1 is 400. The x2, well, x2 is the one that we put into the object. That's up here. Remember, doing that again. So we're looking at x2, and there's the variable that we buried in there. So let's go back and say x2, since we're going to be changing that, is going to equal L2 dot x2, comma, and then we put the y in. The y does not change, so that's going to be 400. Now once you hit the run, it's going to draw the line from here to here, okay? It's going to in between. So you should now have a red line that continues to run down and a blue line which stops right here. It actually doesn't go over. It appears 200 pixels wide. But we want to add something to this little variable here, x2. So just like we did on the other one, L2 dot, that's the object, and the variable x2 equals L2 dot x2 plus 1. Now once you run that, you're going to see, and for some reason my computer is flipping out. You're now going to have two lines appear, one red, one blue, and they're both going to be spreading out. Now we need two more lines. Just a quick tip for the rest you're going to do on your own. Say we were doing a green line, we would start the line in the center, so we know the x and the y, right? x1, y1 is going to be 400, 400, and it goes over to 2, so right about there. All right. This coordinate is going to be x2, y2, because we start here, whatever x1, xy, y1 is, that's where it starts, and it goes out to this third and fourth argument. What variable, what is changing here? Is the x changing or is the y changing? Well, it's clear. The y is not going to change. That goes up and down, correct? There you go. The x is what is going to change. But is it changing in the positive direction or the negative direction? It's starting at 400 and it's going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Right? That's what the line's doing. It's actually, the line's going to be here to here, and then it's going to run from the 2 as it continues to stretch. So when we go to put in the change for the variable and what variable is changing, we're going to say the x2 variable is changing, just like the x2 over here. And in this case, the y2 changed here, and any big secret that you would say the y2 up here is going to change. So x2, if we wanted this line, this blue line, to run not this way, but this way, we would have written that code a little differently. We would have said L2 dot x2 equals L2 dot x2 plus 1 less. Now there's other ways of doing it, but that is the add 1 less more, right? Add 1 less to that pile. It sounds counterintuitive, but it actually works. You could have just put a -1 in there, but add 1 less. Okay, because there's going to be functions that you need to mess with. That would have sent the line in the opposite direction. Right, it would have sent the blue line going this way over top of that green line. So when we do the green line, the variable that we're going to be changing is going to be the x2. And that's going to be L3, I guess that's the third line, dot x2 equals L3 dot x2 plus a -1. That's what the x2 variable is going to be. And that would be this position right here. So with that said, that should be enough information to finish the fourth and only line. And make sure you save it correctly and make sure you share it correctly. I need to see the code and the drawing. Make it your own. That would be perfectly fine with me. Change the stroke, the weight, stroke weight of the actual lines, make them thicker. Change the colors, and that would be anything that uses the object notations and the speed and moving would be perfectly fine with me. Make it your own. Don't copy off of somebody else. Doesn't do you any good. And good luck with that. Let me know if you need any help. Go into the Google Classroom. You'll see the link there for my office hours. Email me first to let me know you need the time, and I will make sure that we're both there together. That is 20 minutes. That is a bit of a video, right? So good luck with that. Again, I need either the first video done or the second video done. The cross or the triangle. Excuse me, the cross or the square. Triangle, nothing. The cross or the square drawing. I don't need you to do both. If you want to, fine. But do one, do it well, and then that puts this year to the end, folks. So God bless you guys. Talk to you soon.